Hi, everyone. Our names are Marina,
My name is Michael.
Yasmin?
and today we will be discussing our favorite Disney movies and other animated films by analyzing their culture and society. We will be talking about the socialization, the types of groups that are shown in the movies, the deviance projected, and the types of cultures. So, first off, we will be describing the definition of socialization and deviance and how they are important to culture and societies. Socialization is defined as being the way in which people learn habits, values, and expectations of their society. This can often get confused with the term socializing, which means the interaction between others, so like communication and talking between people. There are different types of socialization, such as primary, gender, race, class, anticipatory, and secondary socialization. Sociologists view socialization as an important development in children because it helps them become prepared for joining new social environments as they age. Structural functionalists say that without it, society members will not be able to be successful within their society, and the society will ultimately fail because their habits and cultures will not be passed down to newer generations. Some societal groups that play an important part in socialization are families, peer groups, schools, religions, and the workplace. Families, which are part of primary socialization, could change important parts in societies. For example, in some countries, such as Sweden, stay at home dads are more accepted in society. So that means Sweden has a different gender norms than some other countries. Now, moving on to the next term, deviance. This is defined as something that is the opposite from what a society would accept as being normal. When someone has violated a social norm through a deviant behavior, that is when social control is used. This is an attempt from society to control people's deviant behaviors. This could be giving a mean look or giving a rude comment to the deviant. Deviance is important to a successful society because it helps clarify the norms and increases conformities and can help lead to positive societal changes. Now, a movie that I chose and love that covers these terms is the movie Luca. This is a movie about a sea monster boy who goes on land to explore the human culture. The types of cultures in this movie are the sea monsters and the humans. The sea monsters are very scared of the humans, and vice versa. The humans are very scared of the sea monsters. This movie projects an allegory about identity and the way people fear others who aren't like them. Luca, along with his sea monster friend, goes on land to understand what it's like to be human. On land, they also make a new friend who happens to be very deviant. She's a tomboy, which is not accepted in the Italian culture shown in the movie. Luca and his two friends are seen as outsiders who get picked on by the other kids because they are deviant. So the three team up together in order to win a race that the town is throwing and call their team the underdogs. They explain the name as being someone who is different. On land, they learn the language, the rights, and the wrongs of socialization, and learning not to be scared of people who are different than them.
So, my name is Michael Reyes, and the movie that I chose was The Incredibles. Now, society has many groups and organizations that form within it. In groups and out groups form with people of similar interests and values, and they can also form with or against social norms. Societies thus form a social hierarchy between classes and societal groups are one of the main reasons why this occurs. And the movie Incredibles shows this extremely well. This movie starts off with a society that has moved away from the acceptance of superheroes because they are considered a danger to society rather than protectors of the people. The opening shot consists of a man committing suicide, but then is stopped by Mr. Incredible, or Bob Parr. However, saving his life only caused him more misery as he had broken bones and was locked in even more debt. And this just becomes one of the many cases that support the overall distaste for superheroes as they cause more damage than they save. Court fights and lawsuits then turn into the national distrust of superheroes, with threats of banishment if anyone were to use their powers again. To quote a government official covering the case, it's time for the secret identities to become their only identity. It's time for them to join us or to go away. End quote. The culture and society of the Incredibles depicts a family that faces the challenges of adapting to social norms due to something they were born with. They must neglect their natural powers in order to become normal members of society. Now, the widespread acceptance of this band continues for years, and we see how it affects the children and adults that mature throughout the film. Helen Parr, or Elastigirl, and Bob Parr together would form a family. However, their children would all be born with superpowers. Helen thus has to teach herself to not use her powers and hopes to pass down that lesson to her kids. In tandem, the kids have to grow up in a setting where they know that their powers are dangerous and try not to use them. So they only use their powers with those in their primary groups, such as family and friends. The main characters end up seeing their social selves as people who could hurt others if their powers got out. This only keeps the bond between superheroes even tighter and even leads to a hidden group of supers. However, due to the lawful acts that were passed, it's clear that superheroes feel a sense of exclusion and are thus a part of the outgroups in society. Throughout the film, the main characters depict deviance by going against social norms and using their powers. This is sanctioned by the constant pressure of having to move locations and having to start completely new lives. This is so they can avoid the risk of getting caught with their powers and facing societal pressures. One of the main characters, Bob Parr, deliberately takes an under the table job just to use his powers once more. The culture and society of The Incredibles depicts a family that has to hide their true selves in order to go with societal norms. And we've seen instances of this in our more recent past. The civil rights movement lasting from the 1950s through the 60s shows a harsh reality that relates to this movie. African Americans had to fight for their rights simply due to the color of their skin. And being rejected by society and being forced to be normal under societal norms, African Americans grew up in a society that put them under the keel of white Americans. This societal rejection led to the fight for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and only snowballed into more acts such as the Americans with Disability Act of 1990. And at the end of the movie, we see the superheroes use their powers to help fight a villain and start changing society's perception of allowing superheroes to use their powers.
Hello, my name is Yasmin, and today I will be discussing the culture and society of films. Humans are social beings. In order to survive, people have formed communities. As a result of sharing a living space, people develop shared routines and habits, from how they raise their children to how they get their daily nourishment. This is where culture comes in. But what exactly is culture in a society where humans thrive in socialization? And how is it shown? People's thoughts and preconceptions about personal space, such as bus stops and train stations, are part of the culture. Culture consists of material and non-material culture. A culture's material culture can be defined as the possessions of its members. Cars, stores, places of worship are examples of things we use in our daily lives that are considered part of our material culture. Non-material culture, on the other hand, is made up of society's ideas, attitudes, and beliefs. There are many ways in which material and non-material aspects of culture are intertwined. Sociologists view culture during his study of kinship systems around the world. George Murdoch first discovered cultural universals. Murdoch concluded that cultural universals are often about the basic human survival, like finding food and clothes and a place to live, or about shared human experiences, like birth, death, getting sick, and getting better. Murdoch discovered other universals such as speech, the concept of individual names, and the oddly jokes through his research. One of the many ways culture is accepted is through films. A film of this society that reflects culture and society efficiently is a Disney film titled Boa by director Dong Shi. The film focuses on the relationship between an elderly woman and a steamed dumpling. When the steamed bun comes to life, the elderly and solitary Chinese Canadian mother, who is suffering from an empty nest syndrome, receives an unforeseen second chance at motherhood. Although, when it comes down to it, Boa is about a mother's love and how she deals with her child's maturation and subsequent transition into adulthood. In this case, the dumpling would represent her son. A type of culture shown in this one is a material culture through food. The mother demonstrates her love to her child, and although she's in a whole other community where different food is used, she cooks food from her culture, such as the dumplings, the noodles, green beans, and other foods. Socialization is presented when the son starts to enter the preparatory stage. At this stage of development, children can only imitate what they see around them and have no concept of how others perceive them. When they interact frequently with others, such as their caregivers, they mimic their behavior. In this case, the child mimicked his mom by joining in an activity she enjoyed. It all changes when he enters the post-conventional stage of morality. In this stage, they start to think about morality in more general terms. For example, Americans tend to believe that everyone has the right to live in a life of liberty and pursue their happiness. The son follows this stage into marriage by leaving his house he grew up in and building his life independently to find happiness. According to sociological theory by Department of Sociology and Anthropology, UMD, primary and secondary groups can be categorized into two broad categories. The Fumboa can be categorized in the primary group. According to sociologist Charles Gordon Cooley, primary groups are crucial to our daily existence. The primary group is typically small and consists of people who interact with each other on a long-term emotional basis to face. A more expressive function than a more pragmatic one is served by this group. Most people's primary social group is made up of their closest friends and family members. The family in this film is a perfect example of the primary group. According to What is Deviant Behavior by Elizabeth Hartney, William Graham Sumner's definition of deviance is the act of going against the grain of one's own culture and society as a whole. Deviance isn't always a good thing, but rather implies bad behavior. The son was deviant multiple times, for instance, when he closed the door rapidly when the mom tried coming in to talk, or when he refused to sit in dinner when his mom made him food that took hours to make, just for him to leave off with some friends. The film Boa relates to current events. Mothers can relate a significant amount with the mom in this film. When children grow older, moms need to accept the fact that they have reached a stage in their life where they must learn how to live independently from their moms. This is hard for moms to face, but recognize that love means to go.
My question is, what are some types of good and bad forms of deviance that can make a change in societies?
And my questions are, why is it hard for smaller groups to have a voice in a democratic environment?
And my question is how social change affects society.